Happy Monday, everybody. It's Jim, it's Amedeus, and good to have you back, big guy. It was quite a weekend. All kinds of stuff that, a lot of people didn't expect to see, and bingo, we got some interesting things here on Monday to chat about.
Yeah, there was some wild upsets as always, but
hmm
pretty solid weekend overall.
You know, um, I wouldn't pronounce the 49ers dead yet, but um, I gotta say, they haven't been looking great as of late, but the stat that I thought was pretty impressive was, since Dabo isn't playing, or Debo, I should say, Debo Samuels, um, Brock Purdy's quarterback rating has dropped 20%, 20 points, I'm sorry. So
Yeah,
anybody who doesn't think a receiver can cause the quarterback to have problems need only look at San Francisco.
yeah, it's very evident that their offense has been hurting without him, and this is something we talked about last week. Just the
Right.
way that Debo Samuel can stretch the field
hmm
horizontally, that other wide receivers and players can't do in
Right.
that sense. Because obviously you have guys that stretch it vertically, but he can do it
hmm
both ways. And yeah, you're seeing the results now, as well as this defense is underperforming too.
Right. Yeah, that's a bad combination of both of them going down at the same time. Um, but when you got somebody like Debo, and you hit on it. What happens is you have to focus on him that Kittle can get out and into space. There's a lot of people who have, because they double cover him most of the time. And even if they don't, they have to pay attention to him. So it opens the field for the other guys. And if that's not the case anymore, then they can crack down and makes it a little more difficult. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting situation. Um, Sporting News has their NFL rankings. We're just going to fly through a couple of them here. They have the Eagles at number one. I honestly, you know what? I can't fault that. The Eagles have only lost a game, and they look ugly doing it, but they seem to keep just winning, which is really all you really want.
Yeah, I think they're a bit. I think their record's a bit better than the actual team they are.
hmm
They kind of remind me a lot of the Vikings last year in the sense
Right,
where they're winning these ugly close games,
right,
and look at what happened to the Vikings. They went 13-4 last year, and then
hmm
it caught up with them this year. So
right.
the Eagles, yeah, they might very well go on and have the best record in the NFL, but I think at some point it's gonna catch up with them the way they're winning these close, ugly games.
Right. Jacksonville at number two on the rankings, at 6-2. That one might be a little stretch, but okay. I personally I would have had Miami at two, but that's me.
Yeah, I mean the Jaguars are a very good team. It's like I said, it's tough. It's tough to solidify teams as like a
Right.
solid one and two because I still think the 49ers are the best team in the NFL. They're just
Right.
banged up right now, and this is what
hmm
happens when you're dealing with injuries, right? But
Yeah.
Debo Samuel comes back. I expect the 49ers to get back on track. So
They'll get good again. So then number three is Baltimore. Baltimore just keeps chugging along, and that's they just keep playing well. They have the Chiefs ahead of the Dolphins. I wouldn't have that. And by the way, San Francisco is six, Dallas is seven, and Detroit's eight. They play tonight. Cincinnati's nine, and Buffalo is 10. So that's your top 10 in the power rankings from Sporting News there.
interesting, very
Yeah,
interesting to see that.
I'll tell you, it's weird. Okay, so basically tomorrow night is the big night. Tomorrow night we know in college football who is the number one team with regard to the power rankings from the CFP, and that's what decides who the Final Four is. Now, Right now, in the AP poll, we've got Georgia at 8-0, number one. They play a surprising Missouri team, who's ranked right now at number 14. It's going to be a bit of a reality check. Tight end Brock Bowers didn't play, but in watching them play against the University of Florida, they seem to be quite solid. I'll say this about Georgia: they're not winning with style points, but when you've got Kirby Smart and you got Will Muschamp, two of the best defensive minds in all of college football, Georgia is going to be okay. They're going to be one of the four. Whether they're number one or not, that's a bit to be, certainly be argued about. But it's going to be interesting. Number two, also 8-0, of course, is Michigan, who has played no one. Okay, absolutely 100% has not played zippity doodah. They're number two. They played Purdue on Saturday. Number three, Ohio State. They host Rutgers. They're number three. It is very possible, in my estimation, that at the CFP, when they announce the number one team in the country tomorrow night, it will be Ohio State. I don't think they are, but Ohio State's probably going to get there.
We will see. I guess it'll be interesting to see what they have ranked for the 4-team invitational. But I totally agree with you. I don't think Ohio State should be the number one team. Really, I know you said Michigan hasn't played anybody, but personally, I don't think Georgia has played anybody either. And they looked very good against your Florida Gators, but that's also what happens when you play 8 games of the
Right.
season without playing anybody, and now you have 4 games left.
Right. Well, I mean, they beat who they played in front. I mean, again, I'm not saying Georgia's number one. I think that they're a top. I think they're one of the 4 best teams. That could be. I mean, we could find out in the SEC championship game that that's not true. Hell, Missouri's good enough. Maybe they could beat them. It's possible. Anything's possible. Now you're going to see the number 4 slated team in the country, and that's the Florida State Seminoles when they visit, Pittsburgh this coming Saturday. And I think 4 for Florida State is probably a little bit high, but if they finish undefeated, they likely will make that playoff. And you'll get to see them up close and personal, so you'll know.
Yeah, I will get to see. They're another team where they look great every week because they win their games with style points, but they also
Right.
give up 20 points a game, and they don't really play anybody. So
Yeah.
these
Other
are,
than that, yes.
this is another team. This is why I personally I think all the rankings are just an absolute joke this year.
Well, speaking of a joke, number 5 is Washington. Now they're 8-0. They're no joke. Okay. We think they're the best team in the country, or certainly one of the best teams in the country. Now, they're playing at Southern Cal this week, okay? I do not understand how Southern Cal is still ranked in the top 25. It just baffles me.
And this is why, and you hit it right on the head there, Jim. That's exactly why these rankings are a joke. You cannot have USC, especially after the way Oregon went into Utah and manhandled them. That's exactly what happened. And then you still want to call this Oregon team not a top team in the country. That's what I love about these rankings. And personally, if anything, it hasn't wavered for me all year. It's still Washington and Oregon, number 1 and number 2. And
Hmm.
if anything, the way Oregon went in and won that game against Utah only makes Washington's win against them look even better.
Yeah. Now, speaking of the aforementioned Oregon Ducks, they're ranked 6th in the country,
Okay, so
which
they're climbing.
it's like it's 7-1. Okay, they lost a game to Washington in a game that you could argue they could have won had they tried kicking field goals instead of taking so many, fourth and whatever it was.
Had they had a better decision maker.
Correct. Dan Lanning. We'll get to him in a minute. They play at Cal now. Over the past 3 weeks, we've seen Cal and Stanford. They're going to be hell to pay when they get to the ACC. I think Cal and Stanford could challenge Florida State in the ACC next year. I mean, they've been playing good. Number 7 is Texas. Number 8, Alabama. I don't even want to hear from people. Stop it. Shut up. Penn State, number 9. Oklahoma, number 10. Again, I don't get that. Oklahoma lost the game this past week to Kansas. They're not a top 10 team.
Yeah, they're not the team that I thought they were. Definitely, it was. I was very disappointed with their win over UCF, and it's just
Uh-huh.
they followed it up with a total clunker last week. So yeah, I'm totally with you. This is why we keep saying, that the rankings are a real joke. There are some very good teams. And if anything, I think this year just furthers the point even more on why we need to get away from the 4 team invitational and have a
Mhm.
a real playoff, structure.
Jerry has a question for us here. Hi, Jim and Amedeus. Hi, Jerry. Good to see you as always. Do you believe that Harbaugh is out at Michigan? And then a second part of the question. Well, let me take the first part first. I believe Harbaugh is out at Michigan if Harbaugh wants to be out at Michigan. Okay. I think that if there is a pro job open and it's a pro job that he thinks that he can do well at, I think he'll take it. Otherwise, I don't know. But I don't think he wants to be in the middle of a mess in Michigan, and they definitely are going to get whacked somehow. I don't know how bad it's going to be, but I agree. I think he's out if there's a job that he feels that he might be able to handle and make a team better. I would think look out for Cleveland. I think Cleveland might be a landing spot for Jim. There might be. I don't think there's anything on the West Coast that would intrigue him. So yeah, I think there might be a couple of places that although I don't know. What do you think? I mean, it would be the Harbaugh boys in the Northern Division of the NFC. I mean, it's AFC with Jim at Cleveland and John at Baltimore. So that might not be the way. But I do think that he will. He definitely. His agent's probably talking to people right now as to what's going on. And could I see him exit? I certainly could see him exit. Okay, Texas should be above Oklahoma. Uh, Texas has some quarterback issues at the moment, but overall, I think Texas is a better overall team than Oklahoma. They're pretty damn close, to be honest. And I don't know. What are your thoughts, Amadeus, on Texas and Oklahoma?
Yeah, with Texas and Oklahoma, I think Texas should not be ahead of Oklahoma. They have a head-to-head match against each other.
Right,
Oklahoma won. It was on a neutral site as well in the
right,
state of Texas, so
right,
call it what you want. More of a road game for Oklahoma, but I think that I think Oklahoma should be ranked ahead of them because they did beat them. But
right.
honestly, they're both probably trash teams.
hmm Well, they're. I mean, they're to me they're equal in the same way that Washington and Oregon are equal. I mean, they're if they played each other 10 times, they probably would end up 5-5 or 6-5. They're just that. If everybody's at full strength, and I think that's going to be the key. But I think you make an argument certainly for Oklahoma being better than Texas. I think you could make an argument that Texas, overall may be the better team in the long run. But neither one of them, I'm not sure. I don't think either of them are going to be in the top four. They're going to make the playoffs. I don't. I think the Big 12 is shut out of the playoffs this year. That's just me at the moment.
Yeah, all the
Um,
12s are going to
yeah.
be shut out of the invitation.
Well, I'm hoping that one of the Pac-12 teams gets in there. And Dan Lanning had a quote the other night, which I thought was pretty bold, but it is Dan Lanning, and he has no problem saying what he thinks. And he basically said when they talked to him about where he thinks Oregon and Washington should be, he said that as far as he's concerned that they're the best 2 teams in the country. And oh, by the way, Bo Nix is in his money is better than any quarterback in college football and should be the Heisman Trophy winner. And so somebody said, "You mean you're better than Ohio State, Michigan, and Georgia?" He goes, "We're better than Ohio State, Michigan, and Georgia, and Washington's better than Ohio State, Michigan, and Georgia." He goes, "And if anybody wants to try us, he says, put us in the playoffs and let us show." He goes, "But I darn sure," and this is the thing I thought was very bold on his part. And look, I credit him for saying it. He said, "I do not think on any way on this planet that Ohio State and Michigan are better than we are."
Well, you know what? Credit to him because he's absolutely right. They're not.
Right.
He's absolutely right that neither team will get a chance to show it in the
Hmm.
playoffs because again, they're going to invite. It's the invitational. It's not the real playoffs.
Right.
And yeah, he's absolutely right. Now, I think he went a little too far with the Bo Nix Heisman thing because you still lost to Washington, and Michael Penix has much better numbers.
Yeah.
For yardage anyway. But yeah, I think he's absolutely his comments are in no way out of line like the things we've heard from Ryan Day's mouth this year. So
Right. Well, I was impressed with the fact that I'm Michael Penix. He's my boy, no question about it. He's a Tampa guy, so I'm on the Michael Penix bandwagon. But that being said, Bo Nix took went into or to Utah and played a very tough Oregon defense and looked really good playing it.
yeah, definitely erasing that narrative of Bo Nix is not a good road quarterback. So
Right.
he's had some very good road performances. You could even call his loss to Washington a very good road
Yeah.
performance.
Yeah.
In a game they almost won. So absolutely, I agree with Dan Lanning. I think those are the two best teams in the country, and
Hmm.
this is why the 4-team invitational doesn't work,
Yeah. It's not fair, not fun, not anything having to do with that. But it's gonna be
especially in a year like this with so much parity.
I here's where I think it's gonna be a sham. If Michigan and Ohio State, now again, remember this is the first one, all right? There's a long way to go left before it's all over. But if Michigan and Ohio State, Georgia and Florida State are your four teams in the play, it doesn't matter who's number one, two, three, or four. It really doesn't. Um, then I think it is a bit of a sham because then you're not giving credit to teams who've won, and played a tough schedule. Okay, no question about what's going on. All right, we got a question about any thoughts about the World Series tonight. Well, let's go to the big man himself. What do you think there, Amadeus?
Yeah, a lot of people are loving these Diamondbacks at home tonight, but I'll take the Rangers at the -110. I know Scherzer hasn't been great, especially on the road this year, but say what you want about him. He's had a few good innings in these playoffs, and he's probably going to get off to a good start here, I would think. And even if he doesn't, we've seen Bruce Bochy. He's managed the pitching staff very well. And I don't trust this Pafat. It's nothing against him. I know he's
Mm-hmm.
been pitching well, but this is a guy with a 3-9 record in the regular season. He has an ERA above 5.0. He's been pitching well in the playoffs, but even in that first wild card game, he gave up 3 runs against the Brewers.
Mm-hmm.
They won. They've been winning games with him, but he's still giving up runs, and he's a rookie. I think it's got to catch up with him eventually. I'll take the Rangers.
Yeah, and look, the Rangers have been road warriors. Okay, so far they're 8-0, in the playoffs on the road, and so that's not, they feel comfortable. I think that uh, Scherzer is basically. I do think that you know he missed the month. He didn't get a road, an opportunity to have any kind of practice game or any sort of thing to get him back in the in the proper setting. So he's a smart pitcher, and I think that what Max will be able to do tonight is pitch. He'll pitch. He's not going to throw gas by anybody. He's not going to be throwing in the high 90s or something like that. I think he'll just basically be one of those guys who is going to be a painter tonight. I think he's going to play the corners and be someone who is pitching smart, and that's what Scherzer does when Scherzer doesn't have his stuff, all there. I do think that that's um, what's going to happen. It's going to be, I don't know. I think it's going to be fun to watch. I mean, they're certainly the Diamondbacks are have proven, if anything, that they are a team that you got to at least pay attention to. So we'll see how it turns out. Uh, you know, I'm like you. I think that you know I wouldn't bet against Texas, especially on the road, and they have been there. And Scherzer, I think Scherzer wants to atone for what happened to him the other night. So I'm gonna go with my boy Max and see how he can do. It's gonna be interesting. They're playing that game obviously in Arizona at that park, which is got the humidor and all that other stuff. So we'll see how they play out in the desert tonight. It should be a fun game to watch, and I think I'm with you on the Rangers. Let's see what Jerry's got. The Rangers don't seem to be able to perform unless their backs are against the wall. In a game three though, Jerry, and game three on the road, I think you don't want to go down 2-1 when you got three games being played, in a row at Arizona. So I think to use your point, I would say that in my mind, the Rangers do have their back against the wall tonight. So, and I don't think when Scherzer's pitching, you got to look at Scherzer and say, from his standpoint, from Max's standpoint, that he probably thinks that if I don't perform tonight, you know, I'm letting this team down. So I think that kind of incentive is going to be helpful to the Rangers, but we shall see what we shall see. The Diamondbacks have done nothing but, basically prove me wrong throughout the playoffs. But I do think Texas has got what it takes. And look, Corey Seager's playing out of his mind. I mean, it's a good team, so we'll see. We will definitely see. So there you go on that. Any thoughts on tonight's Monday Night Football game, there, Mr. Amadeus?
Yeah, so we got a big one here. The good old Las Vegas Raiders and the Detroit Lions. This line opened at around, I think it was 7.5 for the Lions. It got bet up to 8.5, and then the Raiders announced over the weekend that Jimmy G was going to be good to go with his back spasms, and now the line is back to a flat touchdown for the Lions.
Ooh, okay. And okay.
Yeah, the
I
total is 48.5.
hmm.
So you need
You think
seven
that's a little
touchdowns.
low?
A little low. I don't know. I don't know if it's a little low. I actually think it's a bit high. If
You
anything,
do? Okay.
yeah, I think I would lean to the under in this one. So the totals basically you're asking for 7 touchdowns with that, and
True, that's true.
the Lions have a good defense. I know they got
Mm-hmm.
blown out 38-6 last week, but they're obviously going to want to respond from that loss. And we saw the last time they gave up 30 points this season. Actually, the only time it happened
Mm-hmm.
was when they lost at home to the Seahawks, and they followed up that game with a 20-6 win against the Falcons at home.
Mm-hmm.
They're playing a similar team in the sense where the Raiders are definitely a bottom 10 team in the
Mm-hmm.
NFL. And yeah, this is one where I think the defense is going to show up in a big way for these Lions at home. I think even with Jimmy G back in the offense, we've seen what this Raiders offense can do. They've struggled to score more than 17 points in any game this season. Even their wins have been wins where they are scoring 17 points. And that's again helps with the under, because if the Raiders
Mm-hmm.
are going to pull off the upset in this game, it's actually their defense that seems to show up in those low scoring wins. So yeah,
Right.
I think the under could be a sneaky play in this game.
What do you think about, you're just talking about the defense standpoint. What do you think about, Jimmy coming back? But then again, you know, since he has been out for a while, timing is a little problem. Jimmy's had problems in the past with some, getting picked. That might be we might be seeing something tonight where the Lions end up getting a game by playing some defense and picking maybe getting a pick six, or certainly getting a couple of possible turnovers that will make that field very short.
Yeah, definitely a possibility. I think Jimmy G is going to be a little hampered by that back injury.
Mm-hmm.
Still, I know they said he's ready to go, but But we've seen it even in the young players, like
Mm-hmm.
the 20-year-olds. When you're dealing with back tightness or back
Right.
spasms of that nature, they can kind of just crop up on you, and all it takes is him to just land get sacked and
Mm-hmm.
land badly on the back, and then all of a sudden Brian Hoyer's coming in for the Raiders tonight.
Right.
Now you can take that as you will, because obviously Brian Hoyer is a very experienced,
Right.
competent backup quarterback, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that could help a team out, because
Right.
the Lions game planned. Actually, I don't really know what the Lions game plan, because they probably weren't sure if Jimmy G was going to start. They didn't really announce it to the weekend, so sometimes though that can definitely be an advantage, getting a
Mm-hmm.
competent backup to come in a game, because
Right.
the other defense didn't plan for it,
Mm-hmm.
especially when that quarterback plays a completely different style, like how we almost saw Mitchell Trubisky come in and save the day for the Steelers.
Right.
Say what you want, but the offense wasn't moving at all with Pickett. And as soon as he came in, they started to get the ball a little more
Mm-hmm.
downfield. So obviously, the game didn't end well for them, but things
Mm-hmm.
like that can definitely happen. So I think we could see a situation where maybe Jimmy G gets taken out of the game tonight.
That's possible. And you called it on Atlanta. You said that Heineke, was a guy who could step in and be a solid backup, and all of a sudden he shows up on the on the Atlanta side, and the Falcons didn't win, but they came close, and it certainly wasn't because of his attempt to get him there, because he played a really strong second half.
Yeah, they were fighting back there. That was just
Hmm.
one of those. It was like every time the Falcons struck a bit closer, the Titans
Right,
responded, and they did.
right.
They did what a well-coached team, Mike Vrabel, does coming off a bye at home. We
Hmm.
don't have our quarterback, but it doesn't really matter. We're gonna respond, and we're gonna answer everything you have. We have an answer for.
It took me a couple minutes because I was watching Red Zone there for most of the time, and I'm thinking, where do those powder blue uniforms Tennessee's playing? What the heck am I? And I'm thinking like a fool. I'm looking at the jersey, not paying attention to the helmet, and going, suddenly I see the helmet. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, those are the Oilers uniforms. And you sit there and go, wow, those were cool uniforms. I like those uniforms.
Yeah, I know J.J. Watt was very unhappy about the Titans wearing those, just because of what the Oilers meant to the city of Houston. He
Right.
would he would have killed for the opportunity to wear those
Yeah,
jerseys.
that was that bothered me too. I mean, it's like, come on, yeah, I get that you were the Oilers at one point in time. But if you move, you should leave the whatever team, logo and all that stuff back with you. And that was part of the deal when the Ravens moved. They had to leave all anything that had to do with the Browns records and everything else back in Cleveland. So it's not something that hasn't been done before. So there you go. All right, real quick, let's. We got the Rangers tonight. We think they're going to take on the D-backs and come away with a win. We think that likely, although we don't think it's fair, probably, and we won't be able to talk about it till Wednesday morning, that Ohio State's probably going to be the number one team, or at least the number one or two team.
It'd be
In
great though, Jim,
what's that?
if Penn State beats Michigan and Michigan beats Ohio State. Let's just like throw that wrench into
Right.
everything.
Well, and then how about this? You take that, and you have both Oregon and Washington win out, playing the championship game against each other in Las Vegas. And let's say this time, Oregon beats Washington by 3 points. So you got two one loss teams in Washington and Oregon who played each other, who had two games that were decided by less than 6 points. I mean,
Yeah.
making an argument that there you go.
I
But
want
yeah,
chaos, Jim. I want chaos.
well, that would give you chaos. There's no question about that. I do like the idea because I think Michigan plays at Penn State, right?
Yeah, I think it's at Penn State, and then Michigan gets Ohio State at home,
Yeah,
I think.
right. Yeah, they do. So I could see that happening. I could see them going to Penn State and playing at State College and all kinds of the whiteout and the whole 10 yards, right? So that would be Penn State needs a win, a signature win, and that might be the way they could do it, and it'd be good for James Franklin. So, yeah, that would be chaos. So no question about that. So tomorrow we won't be able. By the time we're on, we won't have that information, but we'll on Wednesday. So we'll talk about that. We'll have an opportunity to talk about Game 3 of the World Series and talk about what happens and what's going to go forth in Game 4, and then we can talk about whatever happens tonight in the NFL with Monday Night Football. So all that good stuff, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, we even have some college football on Thursday, Tuesday night. So all kinds of fun stuff. All right, gang, been a lot of fun. Thanks for dropping by. Sorry we got a late start, but hey, that's what you call in the way of business a technical issue. We've got that issue ironed out, and we will see you tomorrow. So for Jim and Amadeus, who quickly, my bad, almost forgot the most important part, where to find Amadeus' stuff for the night.
Oh yeah, make sure you check out my premium plays at bigowl.com, pickadvisor.com, and theinsidersroom.com. You can get all those links in the description below. And yeah, I got a play up for the NFL game tonight. I got two in the NBA, and I have some soccer up for 3:45, so about an hour from now. So you can go
Mm-hmm.
check that out.
Cool. All right. Okay, gang. Thanks so much for dropping by. Jerry, thank you for being here and asking some very intelligent questions because we always like that. And we will be back tomorrow. So take care. Right around 2 o'clock tomorrow, guys. Until then, take care. For Amadeus, it's Jim. Bye bye.